Today we're going to spend some time with the latest and greatest version of wide orbit automation for radio, AFR 2024. Some features we're going to be showing are enhanced timing accuracy, new timing tools in playlist editor, customization in audio finder, and improvements to double start and vocal protect. So without further ado, I'm going to minimize PowerPoint and hop right into our universal radio client here. Just pausing for a moment to make sure my new screen comes through. Okay, if you can't see that, please put in the chat box, but I believe you should be able to see the universal radio client. So with regards to the enhanced timing accuracy, if you'll notice down here on my playlist widget, you can see at the bottom of the hour, I do have a sync command at the top of the hour. And so it's measuring from the sync command at 10 o'clock to the sync command, or up against the sync command at 11 o'clock, and it says that I have 77 minutes of actual length versus the scheduled length. And you'll notice that there is a disparity between the two. This has new math behind it in this version that does a better job of calculating based on elements that are either scheduled and not going to be able to play, which of course I've put some content in there to trip this up a little bit, and so that you can see that there is a disparity, and we'll look in playlist editor and see what that is in a little more detail. So I'm going to pop my playlist editor window on top of here, and again give it a moment for that to come through. Now you can see that it's synced not only to show that we're playing Van Halen Dreams, but the actual length versus the scheduled length is synchronized in playlist editor with the playlist widget in the URC. And as we scroll down a little further, you'll see that I have some content that isn't going to play on purpose. And so it's actually, the calculations are now based on what's really going to happen as the hour flows through. So let's scroll down a little further and you'll see that I actually am identifying spare content that's causing it to be 17 minutes over the hour. If you haven't played with what I'm about to show you, I highly recommend popping into your playlist editor and playing along if you want to, but you can right click anywhere in the window and pick customize table. And this is where you can select your columns. So we've added 2 new columns in this version of the software, the spare type and the percent. So let's play with the spare type first. As you can see, Karma Chameleon is going to be on the air. That's why it says overlap when the soft sync hits. When that soft sync executes, these 4 songs are going to be synced out of the playlist. This is a very handy feature as you're editing your logs on a daily basis to be able to look and make sure that anything that is labeled as spare is not revenue generating content. We've all had that moment when the log is reconciled and you realize that you put the back time command too close to the stop set and lost your spots. So now you can see it while you're editing the log before it ever happens on the air. It also gives you an opportunity to grab content that you maybe need to put other places if you choose to do so. The other column that we added was the percent column, and this applies to anywhere where you're using your segment rule sets. So in my example here, we only use segment rule sets on our stop sets, and I've got this stop set to be 90 seconds long, or 1:30 seconds. And as you can see, the scheduled content, the actual length of the content that has populated in there is 1 minute and 29 seconds. Because I have a segment rule set on this, it's going to stretch and squeeze that content. And this percent says that it's going to actually take a full 1 minute and 30 seconds to play that 1 minute and 29 seconds of content. If for some reason I was using a segment rule set perhaps on long format content across an hour, maybe of satellite or pre-recorded downloaded content, then you can set the rule set and it will tell you if you're going to run short, maybe it'll say 98%. Or if you're going to run long, it'll say 103%. But these percentages are handy, especially when you're working with talk formats. My apologies. I got all choked up about that. Also, while we're playing in Playlist Editor, let's talk a little bit more about the double start and vocal protect. So here I have an example of a double start. And for those who are not familiar with what double start is that you can actually use wide orbit automation to start two elements at the same time. And you do that by, so in this example, this audio element is a bed, it's a voiceover bed. And so I've got it set to double start in the type, and then the second element is a dry liner. You can use this for many creative things that you may want to put together in parts and pieces and fire off with a double start. But one of the improvements that we've made to this functionality is now, because this Tommy liner has been end dated, it's not valid, and it's showing red, now the bed won't play. Because these are double start elements, the bed will not play, and the bed is not being calculated in the runtime for the hour. The second improvement is with regards to Vocal Protect. So again, for folks who are new to what Vocal Protect is something that you set on content that you want to run up the ramp and hit the post. And the Vocal Protect will actually time out when it starts the second element so that the dry content will go right up that ramp and be nice and tight on the post. Now, this is an 80s library in our demo system, so this Pretender song has a 22-second intro. That would be a very long dry liner. Not that it can't be done, but it's a little lengthy. This Tommy liner is a quickie, right? So it would, as this plays out, the Vocal Protect would just go right up this ramp. In the new version of Wide Orbit, if for some reason the Pretenders wasn't going to play, it would play the entire content of the Tommy liner before starting the next content in the playlist. That's important because for your Vocal Protect content, you put the EOM or the marker to trigger the next element. You don't put it at the end, you put it where you would want the ramp to start. And so if we don't have this, then it's possible to end up with these two pieces of content on the air at the same time, or the two liners back on the air at the exact same moment. So now this vocal protected element will play all the way to its end and then fire the next element if the one adjacent to it cannot play. Whew, that was a lot of technical words. But if you want to play with this further, we welcome that opportunity. Let's take a peek at another key feature that we have available in AFR 2024, and that is in Audio Finder. So we're going to give my monitor a second to catch up with us. I think you can see the content now. And again, new features that you can configure in Audio Finder. If you haven't played with this, you can add last play, next play, all sorts of columns that are available. But the brand new one that's available in 2024 is the gain column. So here in this example, I'm going to pick on my Tommy liners again. And you can see that all the Tommy liners are at a gain of 6. If I wanted to do a mass change, I could do that. It'll warn me that it can't be undone with a simple undo, but I could go in here and I could change the gain. You can also set these gains now for ingestion rules in the media asset importer. For example, if you have a content provider who everything they do is just a little on the lighter side, you could give their own import path and you could set the ingestion rules to augment the gain to align so that their content is more normalized with the rest of your library. Another fun feature here in Audio Finder is we can now move and copy. So you could copy this song, the 8675309, to another category, or we could move it to another category. And we did that. Let me go through that process one more time to show you how I did that. So I just selected the song, selected properties, went to distribution, and here at the top, now you can move and copy. And you can bulk do that with libraries, or let's say you decide to create a holiday liner category. Then you could grab all of your holiday liners and move them over in one fell swoop. So those are a few of the fun, wonderful new features of wide orbit automation for radio 2024. We have more available with DTS auto stage integration, live copy on hotkeys, wildcards in the importer, and much more. And actually, in a future radio office hours, we're going to play with the wildcards and kind of go through the steps, because if you are using a third-party software to help download content from an FTP site, perhaps daily or weekly content, you this new feature can help you eliminate having that extra piece of software to bring that content in.